Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. I am now getting to the video on the Snecx Mini Buster that has been highly requested by many of you guys, and it is indeed an exciting knife. So this is a production collaboration between Snecx and We Knives. And Snecx is a custom knife maker, knife designer, engineer, knife engineer, CNC machinist, you name it, he kind of does it. And the reason he's so popular and a lot of people like him is because he is so incredibly meticulous about everything that he does with regard to finishing knives and designing them. Indeed, he spent, I think it was several weeks one time, trying to dial in the proper type of media blast finish that he wanted on the blade, and it may have been for the original Buster. Now, this is based on one of his production knives called the Buster, and it was a 4-inch blade. It was made completely by him in-house. He only made 18 of them, and they went for $1,800 table price, except for the last one that went up for auction and went for either $7,000 or slightly over $7,000. And that's not really outside of the scope for him. His first knife was the IFS 20, an interlocking knife that went together, 20 parts, went together, no screws, inspired by firearms, and that one went at auction for I think over $10,000. So, you know, again, he's super meticulous. If you follow him on Instagram, you can see him kind of really dive down the rabbit hole with everything he does, and a lot of people really seem to enjoy that. So again, this is based on the custom. It was a 4-inch, this one's 3.5-inch blade, and so everything has been redesigned around the 3.5-inch blade. He simply didn't just scale down the knife by 30% or what have you. Now, there was another production collaboration after the custom that was done with Jake Hoback, but it used the roller detent ball in lieu of the hybrid pin detent system, which we'll talk about on this one. And yeah, let's get into it. Now, just keep in mind that this one is a first production. Well, it's not quite a prototype, but we'll call it a prototype essentially. So there are going to be some differences on the actual production run, which is coming out, or was supposed to be coming out in April of 2020 here. Due to health concerns around the world and supply chain issues, keep in mind that it may not come out in April anymore as anticipated, but hopefully not too far beyond that. Price will be probably like MAP or minimum enforced price, about $290 at dealers. I think the retail was to the tune of maybe $340 or something along those lines. Yeah, $340, but we should see them about $290 at dealers. It's a run of only 400, and I do anticipate these selling out. All factors remaining equal with the economy, I suppose. So let me show you guys this one in a little bit more detail. Actually, let's do specs real quick and a size comparison. We do have the Para 2 right here, and then we have the Kershaw Dividend back here. So kind of right in between the two in terms of size. Obviously, it's a Wharncliffe blade. I believe the production version is going to be done in CPM 20 CV. This particular prototype is M390. They're pretty much equal steels, so you are getting a top tier steel. Let's see here. Titanium hardware, ceramic bearings, and the detent pin is stainless steel. So the spec-wise, 3.5-inch blade, 4.5-inch handle, blade stock of 157 thousandths, and then it comes down to 20 thousandths behind the edge of this full flat, or flat grind, just about a full flat. One of the differences between the custom and this that I think people were somewhat disappointed in was the fact that the custom actually ran on phosphor bronze washers, whereas this production version does run on ceramic bearings instead. And I did talk to Snecx about that, and really the issue comes down to in order for the phosphor bronze washers to be done well, it takes a lot of hand work and tuning, and he wasn't quite happy with the production at scale using phosphor bronze, and so in order to get the feel the same as his custom, which again was washers, whereas this one's they had used bearings essentially. So doing washers at scale, large scale, in a 400-piece run, he just didn't really trust them to be able to get it right. The action on this one with the washers, with the bearings, does feel very similar as I remember it to the custom, which I had in hand and did a video on. So, all right, let's do some up-close shots here. Got that flat ground blade. Kind of a dip up top, nice spot for your thumb, moderate traction jimping, swedge. You know, the grinds are very, very nice. There's the plunge line, and it does, the sharpened edge stops before the frame. It does have an enlarged stop pin, as you guys can see, and we do have a really nice satin pivot here. One of the design compromises that he had to do was We Knives originally wanted to use their We logo pivot, but he didn't like that pivot, and so he said no, and the compromise was to go ahead and put the logo on the blade here. So on We's Instagram, they have shown pictures of one of their first production runs with the logo. In the actual production run, the logo will actually be a little bit smaller than they show it on their Instagram, which is good because they put a huge logo on it. So anyways, that will be shrank just a little bit. If I haven't already mentioned, the blade seal will be CPS or CTS 204P. No, it's going to be Carpenter 20 CV. I'm sorry. Should be Carpenter 20 CV. So some of the really cool features on this one are going to be the back spacer. If you guys can see here, we do have a raised back spacer, and then inside the back spacer it has been milled out to allow for the blade. So if we imagine this back spacer not here, essentially the blade would come up to the very edge of the handle or even beyond it, and that would certainly cut you. So he has, you know, used design to maximize the blade width to really get the most out of the blade that he possibly can, which is again one of those really cool kind of details that he utilizes. The back spacer has been satined and will be on the prototype. Do have a lanyard pin or lanyard loop at the back that's integrated into the frame. You know, centering and everything will be spot on. Let's look at the HDPS, which is the hybrid pin detent system. So I don't know if you guys can see, but the top portion right here is not covered. It protrudes from the top of the frame arm here, and so when the knife is open, it's actually that piece of stainless steel here, the pin, that makes contact with the blade. So it is a steel-on-steel type of lockup, and that's also the detent. It's a detent pin, not a detent ball. And so he really designed this as kind of an open architecture so that you can easily get in there and clean out like the detent pin here, essentially. So it's similar in some ways to perhaps the Chris Reeve Umnumzon or the Sebenza 31. Is it 31? Yeah. You know, they use a large ceramic detent ball. He uses this pin system here. It's really cool. It works. Let's look at the action. So there's no jimping, although I don't find myself slipping. If I do have one complaint, it's that I wish the detent was a little bit stronger. It's a moderate strength detent, so if you want to, you can, you know, do partial opening, any intent, and it opens right up. The smoothness is, it's very, very smooth. So as it's closing, you feel no friction whatsoever on the blade, but it's also not drop shut. So yeah, ergonomically fits really well in my hand. No hot spots. The balance point is right behind the choil here, right where you want it, so the balance is excellent. You know, again, it comes down to 20 thousandths behind the edge. It slices very well, and visually it is a well-balanced design. So it did a lot of really good things here. Again, a lot of really meticulous design work. You know, everything's chamfered. Just an incredible attention to detail there. So you know, it's, to me, it's like 95% of the custom. Again, it's not on the washers, which a lot of you guys commented you were disappointed in, but I would rather have it, utilize bearings and be well done than washers and have, it not feel quite right. And, that was really what Snecx was about too. It needed to feel right, needed to be right. And apparently doing bearings at scale are a lot easier to do than washers and do them correctly. So anyways, let me see what other... One thing that I do want to talk about is when you have someone like Snecx or, perhaps like Brian at Sharp by Design, or even you have Beg Knives of California doing a production collaboration. One thing that these guys all do well is that because so much of the work is done by them in terms of the CAD files that they send over and the finishing that they request, they really try as hard as they can to basically nail every detail to the floor. So it's not left up to the production company to figure out, okay, here's the design, how can we make this as easily and quickly as possible? When you have people who are using the same machines and do a lot of the work beforehand, they're like, no, here are my files, use my files, these are the finishes that I want, this is the way that I want it finished. That's something that perhaps these makers, perhaps others do really, really well. And so what they're doing is really maximizing, the production capabilities of some of these, production knife companies like We Knives and Riot and so forth. And that's what we're really getting here with someone like Snecx is he is so meticulous and he's done so much of the work himself rather than, throw a napkin drawing at him and let them figure it out, that we're really getting the best of what We is capable of here. So the decision to go with We, I think this model turned out wonderfully. It has the same feel. It's come down to a much nicer size than his custom at 3.5 instead of that 4-inch. He redesigned it around it so nothing is out of balance or proportioned incorrectly. Fits great in the hand, super smooth, and it's just a really, really nice, kind of true to the original interpretation of the smaller size. So I'm quite happy with it. I think you guys will be too. I think it'll sell out really well. Let me see if there's anything else that might be changing or might be different. I think that's pretty much it. So again, April or beyond, these should be hitting dealers. Price should be around $290. Top-notch materials, top-notch finishing, incredible detail, and I'll leave links in the description box below if you do want to go follow Snecx on Instagram. Join him as he, tumbles down the rabbit hole. He does have a few other products too, like, custom box cutter type of handle things. I don't even know what to call them, but yeah. So anyways, hopefully I answered all of your questions. Again, I know you guys are really looking forward to this video, so you can follow me on Instagram for more daily content and plenty more videos to come, as I have not a whole lot of other things to do in quarantine here. So I will see you guys soon. Take care.